So, Bryan, I saw that you started off being a vegan some time ago, and then you've
Mm.
kind of migrated to carnivore. I'm not sure. I'd be interested to know what your current diet looks like. But could you share something of your kind of your journey through there and why you switched from vegan to these other diets?
hmm Yeah, sure. I was always very interested in health. From a very, very, very young age, I was absolutely obsessed with muscles, and I was in the gym as a young teen working out. And so I was on the standard Western diet because my parents paid for the food, so I ate what they bought me, and I also had no idea about carbs and fat and protein and anything else. So I was on the standard Western diet until I was about 22, 23, when I stumbled across an animal cruelty video. Facebook had just come out, whatever it was. And then there was an animal cruelty video, and I was absolutely disgusted about what I saw. And I said, I want no part of this. So I went vegetarian. And I was vegetarian in total for about 7 years. And pretty much instantly, although I didn't know it at the time, I got sick immediately. As soon as I cut out meat, and massively increased my vegetable intake, increased the intake of beans, because at the time, I think possibly even now, like vegetarians do rely on beans a lot. I was eating a lot of beans, but I also, I fully invested in it. I got all the green powders, the brown powders, all the nuts, all the seeds, all the weird and wonderful roots from all over the world. I was really into the vegetarianism and eating plants, but I was sick the entire time. The first thing that happened to me was I had serious digestion disruption. So I had, diarrhea for days, and then constipation for days, and then diarrhea for days, and this went on for seven years. So I became, obsessed with digestion because I always had an excuse like, oh, I didn't have my smoothie today, or I had white rice instead of brown rice, or there's always something, and for 7 years I had an excuse. And at some point soon after becoming vegetarian, I started getting a lot of joint pain, and a lot of kind of what I thought was arthritis, because my dad had arthritis. So I just thought, this is my luck, it's setting in early, mid-20s, and my knees are always hurting, my wrist is always hurting. But my joint pain got so severe that there was a time when I was driving my car home, and I suddenly got the most intense joint pain on both hands that I couldn't close my hands around the steering wheel. But I was on the on the highway, and I had to keep driving, so I actually had to kind of press my arms on the bottom of my steering wheel and use that to kind of steer. It was pain that came out of nowhere that I've never experienced that since. And so I was in a pretty bad place. I just had this pain everywhere. I thought I was old before my time. I thought I was doomed. I had to give up lifting weights. I had to give up practicing yoga. I was on the verge of having to give up carpentry because I couldn't swing a hammer anymore. And then by chance, I overheard, and during that vegetarian time, I spent, a few weeks, a few months vegan, not by conscious decision, just because I was, living in the UK, and during the summers I would just eat, big, bountiful salads, which for whatever reason naturally excluded animal products. But then by chance I was, hanging around with some people, and one woman was saying to the other woman, yeah, my husband, he was sick for decades, and we couldn't figure it out, and we were purple vegan, white vegan, only eating soups, only doing juices. They tried all the variations of veganism under the sun, and nothing helped her husband. And I was just kind of eavesdropping while I was supposedly minding my own business. And the woman said to the other one, she said, and then one day I said to my husband, we have to try meat. It's the last thing left. We have to see if we can. So he started eating meat again, and instantly his symptoms started to alleviate. And then I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, is it because I'm not eating meat? And then the other woman replied and said, oh yes, I've heard, certain blood types should eat certain types of foods, da 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 da. And I knew my blood type because I was donating blood. So I instantly went on the internet and found a book called eat right for your type, which I believe has been kind of tossed out, as it were, and not really true. But anyway, I read the book, and what it said about my blood type made so much sense to me. It said my blood type, which is O negative, enjoys vigorous physical exercise, enjoys eating meat, and should eat meat, should reduce vegetable intake. And, this doctor that wrote this book has a whole theory about the blood types and the age of the blood type and things like that. But what I read about mine it made so much sense, because I loved lifting weights for as long as I could remember. And I grew up in South Africa where, 3 times a day you're eating a hearty meal, a hearty plate of meat. So I slowly started adding meat back into my diet. And, while it went against my principles of animal cruelty and all that, I started feeling better. Slowly, I started feeling better. Slowly, my digestion started to normalize. So that went on for a couple of years, where I was just slowly eating more and more meat. You tend to start with, just a few pieces of chicken, and then suddenly you're like, oh, I'll just have the whole chicken breast today. So it was a natural progression. And that's actually one of the reasons why I was reading the books I was reading, which is what introduced me to Red Light. But I also then started learning about the keto diet and the high fat, low carb, and the effects of carbohydrates on the blood sugar, and the downstream effects of constantly having a high blood sugar. Whereas fat is also an energy source, but it's very, very low in terms of oxidative stress that it causes. So I was reading all about this, and while I was reading, I was slowly lowering my carb intake and increasing my meat intake and increasing my fat intake. And what do you know? After I hit a certain level of low carb and high fat, all my problems disappeared. My digestion came right, all my joint pain disappeared. I started building muscle again. I started losing fat. I had no pain. It was night and day. It was unbelievable. So I was quite happy on the keto diet for, probably about a year or so, symptom-free and loving life again. And then someone reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, there's someone that's, talking publicly on a podcast about only eating meat, nothing else. And I thought, no, this is insane. This can't be right. So listened to that podcast, and all the points that he made a lot of sense to me. And I was, already eating like 90% meat anyway. So I just eliminated the last bit of plants I was eating, and then ate very, very strict carnivore, which was just beef, for 6 months probably, and never felt better. It was an incredible time for me. I was just very, very happy, lots of energy, no pain, high work rate in terms of both lifting weights and my actual day job, and just really, really had a good time. And that was about 3 years ago now that experiment kind of naturally came to an end, because I want to eat a salad. I want to have some sourdough toast. I want to, what I mean? Just those kind of life enjoyment things. So I've kind of swung back more towards a normal diet, as it were, but my main focus is still animal protein. So that makes up the big bulk of my plate. And then I will have a little bit of sweet potato or a little bit of white rice. Maybe once a month I'll buy a loaf of sourdough bread and eat the sourdough over a period of 3 or 4 weeks. A little bit of fruit here and there, a little bit of cauliflower, and then a lot of meat. And that's what my diet looks like right now.
Interesting. I mean, that is, yeah, it's just interesting that kind of flow through from vegetarian to keto and then carnivore. So we did talk a little bit about your health protocol, right? You kind of talked about what your day looked like, but could you share kind of maybe more detail on what does your health protocol look like on a daily basis, and how do you think about it?
I guess I'm just kind of looking to other leaders in the health space and seeing what they're talking about, and then applying it and trying it on for myself. So an average day for me now, so I have probably 3 different types of days, I guess, is the way I would describe it. One of them is a day when I'll lift weights. And then on a weightlifting day, I will possibly also have a sauna. If I don't have the sauna, I will have the red light therapy, then the weights, or I'll have the weights and the sauna. And then the third type of day is a recovery day where I will have neither red light therapy and possibly a sauna, but I will focus on the cold. So, I'm lucky I live in Cape Town right now, and the seawater here is absolutely freezing. So for my cold therapy, I'll jump in the ocean. But okay, so I wake up at around 5:30, and I will immediately obviously just go to the bathroom, do my morning ablution, wash my face, brush my teeth. Then I'll go downstairs, I'll put the kettle on, and I'll have a couple of glasses of filtered water. And then I will make a little morning mix, which consists of a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, some high quality pink salt, and every other day some what do they call it? They call it it's an electrolyte mix, trace minerals. So it's a liquid that's full of trace minerals, elements from the earth. I have a few drops of that, and then I'll fill that up with a little bit of cold water and then some hot water from the kettle, and I'll sip 2 or 3 cups of that, and that's the hydration, right? So we do tend to dehydrate overnight, especially if we're mouth breathing. We dehydrate overnight. We wake up with a dry mouth and very, very thirsty. So I hydrate first thing with the salts and the electrolytes and the lemon juice and the apple cider vinegar for a little bit of gut bacteria. Then I will, do some light chores around the house, just tidying up a little bit while the sun is still coming up. I'll then do my red light therapy if I'm doing it that day. And then I will go outside immediately and have a 20-minute walk around the neighborhood in the morning light. Just trying to give my body the signal that it's daytime and the sun is coming up, and get the light in my eyes. Then I come back home. I do the first some days I work out twice a day. So I'll do the first of my strength sessions, which right now is actually a lot of prehab stuff. So I'm seeing a physio, sitting in a desk job all day, starting to get that hump on the back of the neck, not very good. Got some tight or weak feet from wearing shoes for 35 years or whatever. So I do a lot of kind of rehab stuff where I'm kind of working on the dexterity of my toes and the muscle tone in my feet. I'll work a lot of upper shoulders at the back, or mid traps, just to kind of open up the chest and just kind of get the head a little bit more above the shoulders to counteract the day job. Then I'll do my weight session. Then I will go in and have a breakfast of high protein and medium fat and a little bit of carbs, perhaps, a little bit of sweet potato, a little bit of rice. And then I will work from that's probably about 10 a.m. I'll work from 10 a.m. till, mid-afternoon, 2 p.m. perhaps. I have a standing desk. I have a keyboard and a mouse and monitors so that I can at least stand and get my posture straight. I also have a walking treadmill, which helps me get some steps during the day. If I'm going to be on the computer, I can get some extra steps in during the day. Then I have another setup. Like now I'm in a chair, so I'm sitting down. I have the screen set up high so that I can I don't have to look down at the screen. And I'll, so 2 o'clock, I'll have another lunch. Well, actually, I won't have lunch that early. And I take regular breaks throughout the day. I work for about 45 or 50 minutes. And then whether I'm standing or sitting, I'll get out of the room that I'm in. I'll go outside, whether I'm raking up leaves or taking out the trash or washing the dishes. I'm doing anything else besides work. Just taking a break, a physical and mental break, and kind of recharging. I might go, hang off the gymnastics rings for a bit. Then I come in and work again, and then I will usually start preparing lunch at about 3 p.m. And that'll be, again, high protein, high fat. I generally only eat carbs once a day, just for the sake of keeping them low. I'll have my second meal around between 3:30 and 4:30. And then that'll be all my food for the day. And then I'll just drink tea, or I drink soda water with lemon, and I'll just drink liquids for the rest of the day. I work, reasonably late, I guess. I mean, and compared to some people that work 16-hour days, I certainly don't work that much, but I will work till about 7:30 p.m. depending what I'm doing. Of course, I will use red ambient light, or I use my blue blockers if I'm working after dark. And then once this about 7:30, laptop closed, phone off, everything off, and then it's just red ambient lights as much as possible throughout the house. No overhead lighting, no bright LEDs. My house is a red cave at night, very, very calm, maybe some gentle music, and just connecting with my girlfriend, hanging out with her, chatting to her about her day, and just kind of grounding and coming back into the present moment, as it were. And then there's obviously some an afternoon shower, I suppose, some cleaning like that, and then getting ready for bed, a little bit of journaling perhaps, and then just relaxing on the bed and just winding down, maybe reading a book, chatting some more, and I literally just allow myself to kind of fall asleep calmly and quietly, as it were.
Wow, that sounds very organized, I have to say. I mean,
it's been many, many years, so like if I say that to someone, like, you should do this, it's good for you, like, it's overwhelming to plan all of that stuff. But each of those things I've implemented over years and years and years, and finding out what's worked for me, so it's been a lot of practice.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. So where can people find out more about your company, Red Light Rising, and your products?
So we've got a website, of course, redlightrising.co.uk. They can also check us out on Instagram if they are that way inclined, at RedLightRising. And we try and produce as much informative content as we can to answer these kinds of questions, but we're also very, very happy to help people on a one-to-one basis, whether we do Zoom calls like this and we talk people through potential protocols, things like that.
Right. So that's like a service you offer that people, they would just contact you and ask for a consultation?
Yeah. I mean, it depends, because some people have really, really unique circumstances. So there is a lot of we kind of have to interview each other and be like, well, can you do this? What's your morning schedule like? What's your mobility? What's your energy levels? So for the people that need it like that, absolutely, I make myself available on these kind of phone calls, and we can chat about it, because it is such a bizarre thing for a lot of people, and I admit it's quite hard to believe sometimes on some level. But yeah, I just try and help people understand as easily as possible. So there's PDF downloads that contains all the information. There's videos on YouTube. There's a quiz people can take to help find their way to the perfect light. And if they still can't figure it out, then we're available on the phone. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. That we'll include those links in the description. Yes. Okay. Thank you. So thank you.